Mike. We're here outside the Moynihan Federal Courthouse in New York City, and we're awaiting some news with regard to the arraignment of Mr. Epstein. There's some news media and stuff gathered here. How are you, Mike?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Let me turn my camera around here so that people can see the front door of the court building. There's a lot of cops around, and there's some media here. Can you see all this, Mike?
Yeah, I see everything that's going on. I was out in LA for the OJ trial, so this is probably not rivaling that, but it's a distant second, we'll call it. But it's a big deal. A lot of people waited for this. We got a truck in the background.
Yeah, I'll go take up another position.
But it's not dreary, for a lot of the victims here. This guy is like a complete maniac. We talk about people who are maniacs. This guy has been a maniac for years, and this is just the beginning. We're going to see where this goes today, what's involved with the indictment. Nobody really spent a lot of speculation about what's involved in the indictment. We got an update last night about what's involved, what's going to be in the indictment, and so we're waiting to see how deep it goes, and or whether it's just some type of another strange case that goes nowhere.
Yeah.
But I would tend to think that you go into another location.
Well, yeah, that entrance is not where the security stuff is, and so last time I was here, well, I've been here many times since then, actually, but this is the door that they usually go in over here.
Well, don't forget that he is in federal custody, so he's not
Right.
going to be showing up in a limousine, or he won't be showing up in a SUV.
Uber.
He'll be transported from MCC, which is the federal holding tank and rat hole, some people call it the gulag, in Manhattan, and he'll be transported likely with a group of other hoodlums who will be arraigned for different things, or have court dates, or they might just bring him over separate because of the situation. But there's not going to be any kind of curbside perp walk. A lot of this stuff is done internally, so also as, believe it or not, to protect the suspect, so that no one would take a run at him or take a shot at him, especially when it involves sex crimes against minors. People get very emotional about this. So the U.S. Marshal's responsibility is to keep the suspect safe. So they'll probably book him into a van and sweep him inside, and you'll never see him. But nonetheless, our job as journalists is to cover this, and that's what we're doing. Correct?
Yeah. I've been speaking to some of the police around here. Excuse me, officers. Do you know if Mr. Epstein is going to come in this door?
You know the routine by now. Off the step, please. Oh, sure. Sorry. Is this the way in? For the public. Yeah. Well,
the guy.
Leave it open for the regular jury duty guy.
Got it.
The media guy.
No, we don't know any information.
Okay, so the marshals don't know where he's going to enter from.
They get it like as a need no basis. The media guy with the umbrella though, he's ready for anything that might happen. He's got the umbrella. He's got the goatee. He's
Exactly.
He must be from PBS. They must be on a break from their pledge drive. But anyway, there's as you know, covering these events, there's sometimes these things turn into a kind of a strange carnival-like atmosphere. Even though it's rainy, you get media, you get spectators, you get onlookers, and even though it's early in the morning and it's rainy in Manhattan, coming off the bookend of a federal holiday, it's a very, very strange situation, I guess. A lot of this stuff usually breaks middle of the week or late in the week. You'll notice from previous arraignments, previous bail hearings, previous sentencings. This is on a Monday, so it's a little different.
Yeah, less people here than when we were covering the Wiener sentencing. A lot less.
Well, you have to understand that there's a couple things going on. One, I think that the mainstream media is grappling with how to cover this right now.
Yeah.
And whether they're going to cover it and how they're going to cover it. And these guys are known for, imbibing in some spirits over the holiday weekend. So they're not going to decide that via text, and they certainly won't go into the office anymore. Like in the old days, you would call it into the office on the weekend and you'd have all this hammered out. But now it's like a different thing. So you don't even know if they're going to cover it, how they're going to cover it, because it does implicate potentially the Clinton cartel, and everybody knows that the media is basically in the pocket of these people. And so you might not see as much coverage. With Weiner, he had already pled out, so he was being sentenced, so it was like a freak show. This is just the beginning, and I would tend to think that most of the major media will ignore this unless it heats up. I mean, they've ignored it for years. Why would they change gears at this point? That's kind of my thoughts on it. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Now, last time Mr. Weiner came around this way, I guess to avoid that huge tangle of press over at the front, but certainly when you're entering the courthouse, this is the entrance that you have to use. This is where the magnetometers and the security is all hanging out.
That's where they get you coming in, and also going out. You got to take your belt off. You go inside those doors, you got to take your belt off. You got to take your keys out, your wallet. If you are working for the government, there's a separate entrance magnemometer, whatever you call the thing. And you just kind of get whisked in with your credentials. But for everybody else, they have to go through the drill of putting everything in. And then, like I said, he's probably not going to be, I don't know where he's going to be. And it's funny because this is an unsealed indictment.
Right.
This is a sealed indictment that they're unsealing today. So people are like, oh, I'll just go online and figure out when the bail hearing is and the arraignment. That doesn't work that way because the records aren't public yet. This is all all sourced out that he was arrested, and he was arrested, it was confirmed. But as far as a paper trail, it doesn't officially exist until the hearing starts, and then the papers are cut loose. The indictment's cut loose. And so right now, if you went onto the computer system, like Pacer, the federal docket, to the criminal docket, you wouldn't find anything on Epstein here at the federal court in Manhattan because it doesn't yet exist, so to speak, even though it's been sealed for a long time. And we're going to find out how long they've been working on this. And it's going to be interesting to see what the meat of it is. Now, I do know that last night we learned that the indictment today that's going to be unsealed has to deal with underage girls that Epstein allegedly lured to his compound in Manhattan. Some people in the news media, am I talking too much?
No, keep going.
Okay.
We're interested.
Some people in the news media have said that the feds raided Epstein's townhouse.
We saw some pictures of that.
That's calling that a townhouse is like, that's the joke. That place is a compound. It's worth millions of. It's not a townhouse at all, and it's not in a neighborhood. I can guarantee you where Manhattan residents would permit any sort of a townhouse / condo community. Let me tell you that. But the indictment deals with women, young girls, as young we're hearing is 13 or 14 that he had lured to his place, paid cash for, that also had whisked them back and forth to his residences in Florida and perhaps other places for sexual favors. Now, people are like, well, this guy has been doing this for years, and he's also pled out. He's pled out the 2 prostitution charges in Florida. So he would say that he's not a convicted pedophile or a convicted sex offender because of a reduced sentence. But the point here is that we're going to see just what the feds spell out, how serious it is, and a strange development last night is I heard from some people that are supposedly in the know. We'll find out. With sources, you never know if they're in the know until you find out if they're in the know. So you have to kind of go with the flow. But we find out that today's indictment may not involve outright sexual assault, but sexual acts and they're kind of splitting hairs like Bill Clinton split hairs with Monica Lewinsky. And I find that strange, given that I've talked to other federal guys and gals who say that his list of victims through the years is well over 90 or 100 people that they know of.
Wow.
And that they had on a list to look at and interview. They didn't get to everybody, and a lot of people didn't cooperate. So if they have that many people that they know about, it begs the question: how many really victims are there?
Right. Who didn't come forward?
Not everybody comes forward in these situations, and they tend to be afraid for obvious reasons. When other people on a regular basis start showing up dead, kind of in related cases, it's a good reason to keep your mouth shut, especially with this crew. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum on our shows, on our streams, about the strange. Look at this guy's just bebopping in there. He's got the shoes on. He's going inside.
Yeah. Remember, this is everybody who's just coming to federal court today for whatever reason is going in that door.
Yeah, if that guy's got if he's showing up for trial, he's thinking, man, this was a serious case I'm involved in. All these people are out here. Is it like this every day at federal court? Like the first guy today or first gal today who's coming to federal court is like, man, is it like this every day then? I got to find a back door on the way out of here. My boss doesn't even know I'm here yet. That kind of thing. Because
Mike,
it's very intimidating to go to court. Yeah.
Last night, you and I were speaking a bit about some of the internet reporting that's been flying around regarding James Comey's daughter. People were saying she's the prosecutor on this case. You want to talk about that a little bit?
I mean, it's too early to tell. I would think that's complete nonsense, but
well, it seems like she's on the prosecutorial team, but she's just far
according
too
to
junior. I think if you just look up, Daily Mail reported that, and
no, but here's my thing. We talked about last night. There's no paper on this case yet, like I said, so it's impossible to say who's involved. Number two, she's been in the Justice Department since 2015, which puts her in there less than 4 years. There's no way that she has any. There's no way a junior U.S. attorney would have any serious involvement in a case like this. Whether they throw her on for the hell of it, so she can claim it on her resume type thing or learn, but just for her to be the prosecutor on it would be preposterous. This guy is going to come in here with. This guy's going to come in here with the best lawyers you can find.
Yeah, they're not putting some junior attorney on.
And they're not going to put somebody who has handled Mickey Mouse cases in Westchester County for the Southern District of New York and things.
Now wait a minute.
Even though
is that guy going to give a press conference or something?
No.
Okay. Sorry, Mike.
You might want to ask. Is that a U.S. Marshal there?
No. You're a lawyer, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a lawyer doing a live stream for something else, I guess. Are you involved in the Epstein case?
Working for Ben Whitty's, probably.
Not involved in the Epstein case.
Well, a lot of times you'll see these guys will set up the microphones outside a door, and then they come out and they give. I have to think that, although feds are very, I'll be kind of a smartass. They don't like to get their cheap suits rained on, so.
Well, I mean, certainly the rain is going to put a damper on it, no matter what, right? There's just going to be less people showing up.
It's not a damper for the victims, even though the weather's bad. It's a good day for them, and especially for the victims who, a lot of times the victims get lost in these types of paparazzi situations, and there's a lot of victims that never came forward, and it's a good day for them. Perhaps if they could find even a little bit of solace, then that's a good thing, because these people have been put through the ringer, have been abused. Don't forget, these are children, for the most part, 13, 14, 15, who might have been in his employ for a number of years after they were that old. But at the same time, we can't forget about the victims, because, truth be told, there would be no case if there weren't cooperating witnesses that were willing to stand up and testify against this guy. If he wants to go the route of a trial, which he would be literally insane, any good defense lawyer would tell him this needs to be pled out. This can't go to trial. This will be, a judge will, let me put this in perspective. The federal government gets very upset when you say, I want a jury trial or I want a judge trial. Usually get to pick your own. Defendant gets to pick whether they want a jury or they want a judge. If there's no jury, the judge makes the call. If there's a jury, the jury makes the call. And then the judge, it's up to the discretion of the judge for the sentencing. But he would be literally insane. An attorney would be literally insane to tell this guy that he should go forward with a trial. It would be literally suicide. So this is something that's going to be pled out. And as we talked about earlier, depending on the severity of the indictment, of the charges, how many charges, what the charges are, how many counts of each charge, that will say a lot about any wiggle room he has to plead out. And we've talked about whether this has already been arranged, and his arrest on Saturday was actually a surrender. We're going to find out more details about that as it goes on. It gets a little confusing because it was a holiday weekend, and an arrest on Saturday is very unfed-like, so to speak. But I guess they wanted a shot at this guy. They were probably up on his phones, and they knew he was coming back into the country, and they wanted to pick him up, perhaps before he had an opportunity to get back to his compound in New York, so that they'd be able to raid that. If he had been tipped off from anybody in the last couple of days while he was in Europe before his arrival, that would give him an opportunity to get back home and maybe bleach bit a few things, so to speak.
Right.
So the strategy in these situations is you want to separate the suspect from any place that you're going to serve a search warrant, so he can't get there and taint anything. That my contention is he was probably tipped off that he was going to be arrested. He knew that he was going to be arrested. Some people will say, you're texting live, you know that, right?
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, no, people can't see that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
You can see that, but people cannot.
Okay. So the contention is that, I forgot where I was. You like freaked me out, but it's all right.
Is somehow gone. I'm having some technical problems here. But keep going, Mike. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
My audio's back. There you go. Okay. Yeah, we're just waiting. You were saying that the feds, they want him to plead out. They don't want a jury trial.
Well, he's going to have to plead out. The question is if it's two charges and one count or two counts of each charge, and it's not a number of different charges, we're hearing that it could be a number of people or it could be just 2 or 3 counts on 1 or 2 charges. People say, what the hell are you talking about, counts and charges? Well, it's very simple. You take the federal statute, and if there's violations of different laws, that's a charge. And if the individual violated those different laws at multiple instances, those are counts. So it's very simple to keep track once you're able to differentiate. But if there are not a lot of counts, not a lot of charges, and he goes to plea bargain, this could be a wiener situation where he gets out 4 years, 3, 4, 5 years. I think that the victims would think that would be tantamount to a slap on the wrist and a slap in their face. So we await to see how serious the federal government is about bringing this. And although a lot of people's expectations are sky high and through the roof over the weekend, based on the traffic and the information on Twitter, I think it's prudent to sit back and wait. And time is our ally. We don't have to get ahead of ourselves. Time is our ally, but it sure is not Mr. Epstein's ally.
Well, if he wants to stretch, time, we have no idea if they're going to walk him in here at 4:30 in the afternoon. You know, I just showed up here for the opening of the courthouse at 9 a.m.
Highly unlikely that he would come through at 4:30 or late in the afternoon, just based on the way the court schedule works, especially after a holiday weekend. Number 2, the judge doesn't want to create a bigger situation, and the marshals don't want a bigger situation that would build through the day, so to speak. Now it's raining, so that actually helps, like with anything.
I believe I'm looking at Mike Cernovich over there.
Well, that's good. Good. He came in from California. That's good.
Should I go say hello to Mike Cernovich? He won't be able to hear you, but we can talk to him a little bit. Let's see what he has to say.
It's kind of a wild gamble, but we can see what happens.
Let's see what he's got to say. I think that's him.
I'm about to start challenging the.
Whoa, sound's going crazy. Hey, Mike. How you doing, man?
Hey, good, man. How are you?
Can I talk to you for a second?
I'm right in the middle of something, but yeah, in a few.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't.
Trying to coordinate some things.
Okay, Mike Moore, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We got a lot of static for some reason. And my audio is, there we go. Let's see if we can sort this out. Okay, well, we'll see what Mr. Cernovich has to say. A lot of people are saying that his court case played a role in what's happening here today. I guess we'll see. I don't really think anything's going to happen at this door until after the hearing. So, Mike, talk to us about an arraignment. What's the standard expectation for an arraignment?
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Some folks, some celebrities are too busy to talk. So we'll talk in their place. Probably not a good idea to put us together on a stream.
Well, he wasn't going to be able to hear you. I was just going to ask him. Wow, there was some strong radio interference over there.
You never know what's going to happen with that guy. Probably a good idea not to put these myself and him together based on previous histories and stuff, and also philosophies on what journalism is. But anyway, it's another side. Here's the thing: we don't want to create a sideshow that gets in the way of the victims, and we don't want to give anybody credence who creates a sideshow. That kind of thing. Does that make any sense?
Got it. Yeah, I mean,
because this really should be about the victims. It's not about personal brands and things like that. And the like I said to you earlier before you even spotted him, the victims get lost in the shuffle here, and if that individual was actually interested in talking about that, he would have spoken to you. But he's setting up something else it's all about him. In other words, so we'll move away from that because I don't want to. I said my 2 cents. When you get arraigned, it can be a little bit of a problem for you as when you're getting arraigned. They bring you over. You get there's a holding tanks here. I don't know if he would be in like a general population situation or not, but you're in with other inmates, and then you get taken up to court by the marshals, and you could be sitting there for a while. So you usually get some type of a breakfast, in New York, I believe. In the federal court holding, I think it's you get an orange.
Really?
You have to peel yourself, and you get a styrofoam cup of soda, of cola
for breakfast,
and you get a buttered roll.
Wow.
So that's what he'll have for breakfast today. Here, he would have been on the move too early to have breakfast at MCC, the holding tank that he was just spending the last couple of days at. So that's probably what he'll have for breakfast today. It's kind of the standard. Maybe they change up the menu, I don't know, but it's usually not a very hearty menu type situation, obviously. But and you just sit and wait, and then after you're arraigned, you go back down to where you sat and wait, and depending on what happens to him today, if he gets streeted, I don't know if he'll get streeted. He might be considered a flight risk. I think the government will make the case that he is a flight risk based on his international travel and access to planes and things like that. You don't really need a passport. He'll have to surrender his passport today.
Tom Drysdale.
You don't really need a...
Hey, one of my professors from NYU just showed up. You're on live stream. How are you, Tom?
There you go.
Fine, thanks.
Are you here to see are you here to see the Jeffrey Epstein?
No, I'm here to
Well, don't say it's going out on live stream.
Okay.
Good to see you, Tom.
Take it easy.
Take care. That's a professor of mine from NYU.
He wasn't
Good to see
busy.
you,
He
Tom.
talked to you. See, it's
Great guy. Great guy. I think
Good
he's
guy.
the chairman of the, or at the time, he was the chairman of the photo department.
Yeah. Now,
Sorry.
talking about.
Talking about getting arraigned in the rain.
Oh, well, what happens is the situation is the government today will probably make an argument that he is a flight risk based on his access. When he has to surrender his passport today, he doesn't need a passport to go back and forth to his island, and that's considered, the feds could grab him there if he did that. But they want to keep him. They want to keep tabs on him. So if he does leave today, two things possibly happen. He's going to have an ankle bracelet today, or he's going to go back to MCC while the marshals put together and calibrate his ankle bracelet, and then maybe he gets treated tomorrow. I don't know, or maybe he'll get treated later tonight. The marshals work on a 24-hour clock, so they could calibrate that today. There's some calibration that needs to take place so that they can set up their GPS and everything. And once that's done, then he'll be able to leave.
Mike, do we know who's representing Epstein today?
I don't know. He has so many different lawyers, so we'll find out today. That's something that will unfold because it's hard to say. Now it's tricky, okay, because defense attorneys normally, although an arraignment's doesn't necessarily count, but defense attorneys, when they enter an appearance for you in a federal criminal trial, they're almost married to the case. And the reason they do that is they don't want the guy saying, I need to pull out of this case. In other words, now arraignments are different. You can have a different attorney represent you during an arraignment and then change gears after that, because the arraignment's somewhat of a formality. Some people call it a bail hearing. Some people call it an arraignment. There's really no bail in the federal system, so to speak, like there is in state courts. So it's a little tricky. It's a bonding situation where you're released on your own recognizance based on a monetary bond of $1 million, $2 million, or anywhere start out at $50,000. And what that means is if you skip bail or skip bond and you don't show up for court, or you don't follow the stipulations of the federal government before your trial, then you forfeit that amount of money, and they could claim that or put a levy on anything you might own. So it's different in the sense of bail. He doesn't have to put up any cash today, but bond is the federal government decides based on your assets what your bond is, what your flight risk is, and then they go from there. Does that make any sense?
Sure. Now, Mike, given the nature of his political connections, the allegations, the connections to Bill Clinton and other, very well-known people, what do we think about the risk to Mr. Epstein's life?
A lot of that could be ascertained by the meat of the indictment. Like I said, if it's a light indictment, you have to think that some kind of deal was cut beforehand. Normally, like guys I've dealt with, cases I've worked, of the rich and famous, so to speak, they get wind that they're being investigated. Now, a lot of times these guys are investigated many, many times, but they get wind through associates who are interviewed by federal agents that they were interviewed, and then they can start to ascertain, almost like forecast the weather, that, hey, these things are heating up. The smart ones will contact their defense attorneys before that and start working with the feds. Say, well, look, we know this is coming down the pike. What do you have? What's going on? My client wants to cooperate. We don't want any issues. We don't want anybody kicking his door in. We don't want any because we've talked about it so many times. When they kick your door in for an arrest or something like that, anything can go wrong. When they come in with guns, anything can go wrong. Some hair trigger, rookie or green guy is on his first raid, and anything goes. The bodyguard's new, and he gets a little anything. It's right. I mean, it's basically crazy, And for
that
this
guy
case,
looks
people
very
say
federal, doesn't he? Who is that?
I can't see. Yeah, he looks really small. To me, it looks small, but am I still streaming?
Yes. I'm just adjusting something there. So, okay, the other thing that people have been really talking about, Mike, is that depending on if you're Team Hillary or Team President Trump, people see this as bad news for the Clintons, and some say that they feel that Epstein is going to expose President Trump for doing something. I don't think that's the case.
This is called media spin. You go into the spin room and they start to spin webs. Well, how can we minimize the impact on our overlords? The Clintons are definitely the media overlords.
Can you see this guy? He looks very. What's that pin?
You got to put the camera up a little bit.
Do you know if Mr. Epstein's coming soon?
I do not know that.
Are you a marshal?
He'll be here.
He's got a pin. I can't. Sorry?
A pin on his.
Go around the front?
Ask him if there's going to be a press conference out there by the DOJ.
Is that where he's coming in? He's coming around the front?
Sorry?
Is he coming around the front?
No, I didn't say that. I said
Oh, the cop said I could stand behind this.
if you want. That's fine.
Ask him if there's going to be a press conference.
Do you know if there's going to be a
by
press conference after he comes out? Okay. So that guy telling me to go around the front makes me think he's coming in over here. You think he's coming in the back?
Well, you can't go
over
wrong.
here, right?
I don't know.
Well, if he comes in the front, we're going to see him right here. And if he comes in over here, we're going to see him right here.
I think they're going to whisk him in a van down below, take him up in the elevator.
What'd you say about the back?
There was a lot of media in the back. But
Okay, so we have no idea which way this guy's going in. He's saying there's a lot of media in the back.
Here's what's going to happen. They're going to bring him in a car or a bus. You might not even see the guy. They'll take him upstairs in the elevator, and you see him in court. They're not going to parade the guy. He's already in MCC custody. So he's wearing scrubs. He's wearing federal scrubs. Usually, I think they're green. Like a lot of state scrubs are orange. I'm just taking a guess based on my experience. The scrubs are green. He's been in custody, so he won't be in street clothes. Usually when you see somebody picked up at their house and they're arraigned the same day, they're in the clothes that they were arrested in, whether it's shorts, jeans, T-shirt. But when you're already in federal custody, you've been processed. He was processed on Saturday by the marshals. He'll be wearing, I would ascertain, I think he would be wearing, unless he gets changed into a suit, they may allow him to change into a suit. That's also an option. Most guys just show.
Up front.
So you think he's coming out?
No, I'm just saying they're setting up for the press.
That I saw, but that's usually after when he comes out and the lawyers say something. I'm just trying to see where he's gonna walk in. Nobody knows.
Now the interesting thing is, like when you cover an event like this, you're kind of on a whim. The feds have to keep it dark because it's sealed, so everybody just kind of wanders around.
If it begins now at 2 o'clock. There's so many.
Yeah, the guy who's standing behind me is telling me that we're getting a lot of conflicting information as far as when it's going to begin. Might not begin until 2 o'clock. We don't know where he's entering from. You know, Mike, I would take a moment to remind people who are viewing us right now that every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. you and I have a show on patreon.com/TruePundit and patreon.com/CrowdsourceTheTruth. That's more pain. And people can go to crowdsourcethetruth.com to learn more about that and to sponsor the show. And people can go to truepundit.com to get tons of breaking information, lots of great sources from the FBI and law enforcement and all kinds of inside info that you're not going to see elsewhere.
Yeah, we have a good time on this show, and I think we break a lot of news. We were just talking.
A social engineer walking up right now who is undoubtedly going to create a problem. I'll do my best to ignore him.
I would try to, take my advice and say that we need to focus on this is a victim-based case. Don't let personalities hijack it, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's a reporter from the Miami Herald, Julie Brown, who did a lot of work on this for the Miami Herald, and she even said last night, I tweeted her, she even said last night to certain individuals in the right-wing media specifically, hey, calm down. This isn't about, like, personal stuff. It's about the victims, and there's a long way to go in the case, and there is. So for people who want to spike any kind of football, they're not really familiar with, this could drag on for 18 months. This could drag on for 18 months. Or more. Well, 18 months is kind of a cap if he wants to plead it out. His lawyers can stretch it out for probably up to 18 months. That's kind of the ceiling. With the feds will probably want to wrap it up before that. they tend to get a little angry if you keep stretching things out, and it
Mm.
doesn't usually bode well for the pre-sentencing report that justice has to prepare for the judge to read prior to his or her decision on whether you're how long you're going away for, type thing, if you plead out. Like
Right.
I said, there's a lot of things today at play. Epstein just doesn't show up at the courthouse and leave. It's not like you're going to the mall or something like that. It's not like you're going to court for a traffic ticket. There's a lot of backdoor processing that's done by the marshals and by a bureau of the DOJ called pretrial intervention, which basically serves as his probation parole agency up until the time that he pleads out his trial. Then the case is taken over by federal parole. So we call it PTI, pretrial intervention. So he has paperwork. I would ascertain he has paperwork to do with them when he gets to the courthouse. And a lot of that, the paperwork that the pretrial intervention does, then goes to the judge's chambers. And the judge has that when the judge is able to set bail, because PTI's report lays out all of Epstein's assets. And like I said, somebody's on the run there.
Yeah. Now, Mike, to what extent do you think this trial will touch Alexander Acosta, the member of Trump's cabinet who was, a U.S. attorney in Florida who made this plea arrangement, this unprecedented plea arrangement that let Jeffrey Epstein basically be in jail at home?
If it heats up, the guy's going to have to resign, or Trump's going to fire him. I mean, it's simple as that. You can't have a guy like this. But let's not get also caught up in this media frenzy where these people call for his head on a stick, because some insights into, I've worked a number of sexual assault cases in different things, and at the time a decision is made, I'm not making any excuses for this guy. I think that the plea arrangement was a disgrace, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying in general, at the time these decisions are made, okay, this was in 2007. So this is a long time ago, right? This is 12 years ago. But at the time, a lot of times prosecutors make decisions on the witnesses they have that have come forth and provided evidence. And after a sentence then like this, a plea deal is made public, other victims
Oh, a cop was yelling at somebody. I thought it might be. He was telling somebody to go back behind the line. Sorry.
other victims come out when after a plea deal like this, and then more information comes. Then it's on the onus of the U.S. attorney, like in Acosta's situation in Florida, to enhance the indictment with additional charges.
Right.
He didn't do that, and I have to think that based on human behavior and working a number of criminal cases in the past, other people did come forward. Once
now, this is the guy who wrote the book about Epstein. What do you think we're going to see from Mr. Epstein today? Yeah. Love to talk to you when you come out. So he wrote the book. What's the name of the Epstein book? I forget.
There's a lot of Epstein books.
I
can't. You have to
briefly.
understand. I only can
Yeah.
see his feet from your feed, so
Sorry.
I don't know who it was.
Let me adjust
The guy
the
looked. You know,
Skype
he could have
camera
been.
there.
He could have been anybody. I don't know who he was.
Yeah.
You know, but
So there
it's,
really are more unknowns here today as we wait for the arraignment of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, when I went onto Pacer to try to find some details about today's hearing, there are an enormous number of civil cases that Jeffrey Epstein is involved in, and a lot of Ghislaine Maxwell versus Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, very well-known Mossad agent. Isn't that correct?
Well, there's been a lot of speculation about her. Now, you have to understand a case like this. Maybe we'll break a little bit of news based on my insights. If she is not charged in a case like this, then history has proven that she's likely cooperating. Now,
Right.
if she's cooperating in lieu of not being charged, then we're on to something, okay?
Right.
Because that limits Epstein's wiggle room. That also enhances the federal government's case against him, because she's going to be able to provide all types of facts and evidence that they would probably lose out on. So let's just keep that as a sidebar, so to speak. I would think that the fact that she hasn't been charged indicates that she's providing intel behind the scenes as a cooperating witness, and probably been threatened with some type of legal action against her, indictment-wise, by the Department of Justice if she doesn't cooperate.
How about
her attorneys?
conspiracy to do human trafficking? I think she would be charged for that, wouldn't she?
Well, the first one to the lifeboat wins.
Right.
So if you get there early enough, like I said, if you know that the heat's on and they come and interview you and you have to lawyer up, and with her family's finances, getting a good attorney is not going to be an issue, then first one to the lifeboat wins. So
Right.
you can avoid getting charged if you cut a side deal. Look, a lot of this stuff goes on behind the scenes. People don't even realize negotiations even before you get to this point. Like I said, these folks know that they're coming, and the smart ones will lawyer up and try to cut deals all along the way, especially if they feel that they're getting backed into a corner. So any of his associates who might be worthy of being charged as co-conspirators, accomplices, and so forth, smarten up, so to speak, and they become government rats, so they can save. Because there's nothing worse than a rat that's backed into a corner. They'll chew off their own leg to try to get out of a trap type situation. You know, that's the problem with rats, and that's the problem. Now, if she was stand up, she would. We're speculating, okay?
Yeah.
If somebody in her position was a stand up person, they'd take the heat and they'd say, "Oh, you're not getting anything from me." But then they'd be staring at 15 years in a federal prison. So,
and I don't think we can expect that a woman who is essentially a pedophile pimp is a stand-up person. She's obviously got a lot wrong with her. But
well, these people rock and roll until the walls close in, and then they all turn into rats, because at heart that's what they are. They're
I think
not
the other
stand-up
person
people at all.
a lot of people have on their minds is Alan Dershowitz, and people might recall that the last time I was at this courthouse, I spoke with Mr. Dershowitz, and he said that he had never been on his plane. He said he had been to the island, but he had never been on his plane, which I initially took to mean that either Mr. Dershowitz was lying or the handwritten flight manifest that had his name on it couldn't be relied upon. But last night you and I realized that there is a third possibility, which is that there are two aircraft that we're aware of that are associated with Jeffrey Epstein. I believe a Gulfstream 4 and a Boeing 707. So maybe one of them is owned by his company, and a lawyer saying I was never on his plane. That might be a very specific bit of language that is intended to confound the casual listener.
Well, let's just talk about lawyers, because I've had extensive experience working for them working for me. Me getting them out of trouble, them getting me out of trouble, so to speak. So I have a pretty good background. When a lawyer speaks and parses statements and words, you have to pause and say, what did that mean? What the hell did that mean? And also, let's just break it down real simple for people that are watching. For the pedestrian legal folks who kind of watch this and might not have a background with legal folks. Think about it. It's liar's poker when you get to court. So if Dershowitz is lying, why not lie? Because if he gets caught lying, that means it breaks that he was lying and he was on the plane and potentially doing other things. Lying seems like a very small deal. You know, it's like, oh yeah, but and he lied too. It's like, who cares? So without knowledge that this would break and that Epstein would get arrested, why not lie? It's liar's poker when you're a lawyer. You play the odds. Well, if he gets jammed up, then I'll worry about that. But for right now, I'll keep a united front and I'll say what I want to say. Now, there's a possibility that he wasn't on any of these flights, but that's not what documents indicate. And, he's been litigating that vehemently. And I guess we're going to see. And that's what, a situation like this happens. And then you can't hide anymore. It's like, it's on. So let's see what let's see what happens, right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We've got a protest here in the shadow of the detention facility.
What are they protesting?
Well, Jeffrey Epstein. What do you guys have to say?
Protesting Epstein.
Silence. No statements. All right. I mean,
It's a silent protest. Okay,
it's unclear if they are pro-Epstein or anti. I would presume they're against
Who
him,
the hell would be pro-Epstein? I mean,
well, why don't they have an
came
X
out,
through his face or something? Or why don't they say something? I don't know what their message is.
Yeah, why
It's
they
a
have
vague protest.
Well, ask them why they have pictures of the guy. What does that mean?
Guys,
I'm curious.
what's the intent of this demonstration? What does the picture indicate?
We don't like this.
Put an X through him, no? It's hard to tell if you're pro or con. Give us a statement.
Are there any pro-Epstein people? Like,
This is not our creative direction. Can you mind holding this shot up a little bit? Do you mind?
Wait, sorry, what was that?
And then we can all get some questions.
Anything to say? I mean, you guys are here demonstrating.
Ask for who's the spokesman? It's usually a female who's the spokesperson.
Is there a
in this
spokesperson
situation.
of the group?
Everybody, if you're afraid to talk, let me know sir, why are you here? And tell me about your pictures here. Who is that and what are you doing here?
he's the villain. He's the villain. That's it. And we're here to get rid of him.
Okay, but they don't have to say anything. They can just say they don't
have
like
to.
the guy.
I just,
I
figured.
These are women, and I think it's symbolic of a victim. There's some solidarity with the victims, and I
Sure.
think that's cool. That's cool. And they don't have to say anything. Now,
No, certainly
these
not. I'm just
bubbleheads-
trying to get some
these
clarity
bubbleheads in
because
the
if you're
media
holding
there
a picture
will-
of Epstein, I don't know
Yeah,
if
no,
you're
no, it's
supporting him or
Well, I
protesting
mean,
him.
it would be a stretch to think that, but it's a question to ask. But when they decide that they don't want to talk, like these reporters, you don't badger them, for Christ's sake. That's the difference between like somebody with a brain who's in the media compared to a cement head who would just keep badgering these people.
Right.
They're there
But
on
this
their
is-
own time, and
Yeah,
it's
Yeah, that's
symbolic.
cool. That's cool.
It's
I thought they might have had
symbolic.
a statement for us. Do you want to say anything?
no, I'm not
I
giving
just
you a
think
hard
it's kind
time.
of stupid that you think anyone's pro-Epstein. Like, he's a convicted child molester.
Well,
that's a good point.
That's fine to
That's
think
a good
that.
point.
I don't think you're pro-Epstein, but you come to the trial holding a picture of the guy. I'd be curious to know what you think. You could put an X through his face.
They're probably
you
just a little misguided. That's okay.
Yeah.
I
Not
mean,
saying anything.
it's tough to get a good print job over the holiday weekend. Cut them.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like not an unflattering picture necessarily. I don't know. It's not a very clearly organized demonstration. But Mike,
But also, if
this-
you're gonna protest and hold up a sign, have the courtesy to say, "Hey, we're against the guy," and
right, here's the message.
and here's the message. But I think it's symbolic in the sense that you have women there holding up a picture of him. They're
and
young
men.
and women and men, and okay, so they didn't get it perhaps right, the imagery, but the message is there, and then that's what you go. Again, we need to focus on the victims, and I think that is a good move of solidarity to show that, hey, there's victims involved here. Normally, see, the funny thing is, okay, you bring up a good point. Normally, you would have, in those situations where you're protesting, you would have pictures of the victims.
Right.
All right. But when you have this type of a case, all right, you don't want to manipulate people that are already out in the public. And the federal government's case will probably list Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, Jane Doe 3, Jane Doe 4 of people who want or not afraid to give their testimony to the feds, but don't necessarily want their name out in the public for obvious reasons.
Right.
Now, eventually, if it goes to trial, those people will have to come forward and be identified.
Do you guys have any
But they're-
idea where he's walking in?
Walking in,
Or is he gonna, you think?
He's in.
He's in.
he went in with the other.
Walking out. All right. So they confirmed that he's in. So let's go back to the front.
Yeah,
and try and get
he's
him
in.
walking
He's
out.
brought in by the marshals, and I don't think you're going to see him leaving anytime soon. But that's a crapshoot. You don't know what's going to happen, so we're there to cover it. That's the
Right.
media could sit out there for 45 minutes. When we did the Wiener situation, you were there shortly, and he came breezing in. Then he came breezing out. But this is a little bit more. That was a sentencing hearing.
Right.
Okay, that's usually lasts 45 minutes to an hour, unless it was General Flynn type situation was longer because the judge decided that he was going to rewrite the entire case. While the reporters were in the reporters were in the gallery, he was going to rewrite the entire case and grandstand a little bit. So that was a little longer. So we'll just sit and wait, I guess, for a while.
Right. The press conference station has been covered with plastic, so perhaps and all the video cameras have gone away. So I guess somebody got word that it's going to be a little while here.
Well, people, there's an air of anticipation what's going on, and there are a number of live streams I hear going out, and I know some of the people involved in the case are going to be looking at these live streams because the mainstream media is not going to stream this live. They're going to keep this under the rug.
Exactly.
As best as they can. They have for years, including Fox, who's done jack squat on it. And
Right.
and so they're going to keep it under the rug because this guy is plugged in. And we don't know who's going to be implicated in this massive situation, or if anybody's going to be implicated. This could be a cleanup job by the federal government to clean this up and tidy it up. The FBI is also known for that.
Yeah, and that's the other end of it, really, is that some people are thinking this is kind of, the end of Epstein and the end of the Clintons, and other people are feeling like this is a way to get him in and somehow let him off with I mean, this is it, right, Mike? If he doesn't see justice now, he's walking away forever.
Well, there's two different schools of thought. You have a shot at him now. You could always indict him later on other charges, but if you have him now,
right.
you can manifold him, so to speak, and keep piling on additional charges as other people come forward and they see that the federal government is serious about doing something against the guy. If not, and he gets out of prison in 4 years, he'll probably go somewhere where there's no extravadition. I mean, he's probably not going to change his colors at his age. He's going to be the same person.
He didn't do that already. Why didn't he just go to his, private island and stay there?
Well, because the U.S. has access to that island. The U.S. can just grab him there. They don't need any permission. They just go in and grab him, just like they would at his compound in New York or Florida. So he'd have to go to a country where extradition is a problem, take up the top 3 or 4 stories of the Ritz-Carlton in Kuala Lumpur or something like that.
Right.
Along those lines, and probably doesn't want to make those changes. And like I said, he likely knows what's coming down the pike because he's well represented. He's not going to. This isn't a case where he shows up and pretrial intervention determines that he needs a public defender or something like that. He quite the opposite.
Well, we can see over there what appears to be a very secure entrance for vehicles that seems attached to this complex, and probably, I would think, really high security or VIP, people are going in that way. So those guys.
Yeah, you need creds to get. They're going to whisk this guy in underground, and you're not going to get probably a good glimpse of him. He could walk out those doors tonight, right there that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's where he's going to walk out.
Or late in the afternoon if he gets streeted. I think it's a reach that he gets streeted, but that's just me. I think the government will push for him to be. It's tough though, because most people are released on their own recognizance on bond. It's a gamble with him though. So a judge may decide, no, you're going to be in federal custody until your trial. Now that would be a living hell for him, because the MCC in New York is not a good place. These folks in the mainstream media are bitching and screaming about detention centers for illegal immigrants, but I don't know. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. It's a little noisy. They've got this. Let me move away. I mean, it's like we want to be in the spot.
They got
to
the
see
cement
the guy
mixer. They're going to start. Some of the cement heads in the media have their cement mixer there. Exactly. I'm joking, of course, but
a little better over here.
Yeah. So, what was the point I was making? like
if he gets
it's early in the
treated
morning
today,
for me. I'm trying to
he
get
may
caught
not
up.
even come out of this door. He might remain in federal custody until the trial, which could be weeks or months, right?
Here's the point I was making. These people in the mainstream media are complaining about immigration centers, the conditions for illegal. Where he's at now makes the worst immigration center in the U.S. look like a scout picnic. So he doesn't want to go back there. The feds, despite de Blasio cleaning up Rikers Island and trying to reform the justice system in New York, that's exempt because this is a federal situation, and it's a hellhole where he's at.
Huh.
And people would say, that's good. And a judge may decide you get to go back to the hellhole until you trial. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, we will. So, any other related news happening, Mike? Have there been any tweets from Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton? She seems to be
Well, they're tweeting about,
some stupid stuff.
attacking Trump on a regular basis, and it's just ancillary nonsense. I mean, the cynical part of me, and we've talked about this before in different streams, the cynical part of me thinks that a lot of this stuff is prearranged. This is a circus. This is a chess game. This is largely a chess game, and the Clintons probably at this point would not be nervous, although the regular folks on Twitter would say, oh, Bill Clinton's nervous. Like I said, the fact that they grabbed this guy, it was so clean, they got him at the airport. There's no doubt in my mind his lawyers have
Someone
been
on the
talking
phone
to the
over there. Something's going on. There's activity. People taking plastic off. Let's see what's happening.
Could be somebody coming out from the
Yep.
DOJ or one of his lawyers to give a statement. That's what's going to go down.
I hate it. 'Cause work made me hate it. Work made me hate New York City. On the streets, my wife's like, oh, do you want to go in? I'm like,
Okay.
I don't want to go in.
So I got an auxiliary microphone that we can hopefully get some sound with. No, it doesn't look like the plastic did come off. That might have been
These
a
guys look
false
like,
alarm.
Hired
Hard to say.
contractors. You don't see the. It's funny. What?
Hard to say what's going to happen. I thought
Well,
I
you
saw
don't
somebody
see
moving
the-
for the plastic.
You don't see the Sam Champion style New York reporters there with the microphone. It's very telling to me. They absolutely do not want to cover this. I'm telling you, this
Right.
is like a powder keg because they don't know
Yep.
which way it's going to go. And until these goons get their marching orders from the puppet masters, they're not going to come and cover this because if it's not sanctioned, so to speak, by the elite, they'll get in trouble for it. So they're going to sit back and see where this goes. And they'll try to cover it as little as possible. The ABCs, the NBCs, CBSs, the MSNBCs, the CNNs of the world, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, all these places will sit back and pretend that this isn't happening like they usually do when something goes haywire and implicates some of their overlords, so to speak.
So there's been no reporting in the New York Times, no reporting in the Washington Post? Nothing?
Well, it's early, so they're gonna report what the minimum, so to speak. They're not gonna go in depth like Julie Brown, to her credit, in the Miami Herald are gonna put more work into this. She's put a lot of work into it. The Herald took a chance on a series that she wrote to put this out. They took a lot of heat. It was a good story because this is a good series of stories because this is a witness generated case, and she was able to get a lot of women to speak, and that had never been done before. And I think that paved the way for the feds to go in and say, yeah, we can crack this now because a lot of women are speaking and are willing to speak, and we have a new regime in, not the Obama administration in the DOJ. And
Do you know if he's coming out soon? He doesn't know, but when they move the fences, usually they're getting ready, right?
it's a sign of something. The crowd is minimal, so they don't look like they're sweating too much. What they don't want you to do is if somebody comes out and starts to give a statement, they don't want you to crowd around behind the person because they get a little antsy. The marshals like to keep a clear back because you don't know what the hell is going to happen. I've seen people go complete, completely haywire because emotions run high. And also, you don't want to impede the regular traffic to the courthouse. Somebody like that gentleman right there is going in. It's the marshal's responsibility to make sure that they have a clean egress, ingress type thing.
Now,
what I was talking about, though, is...
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. We've got over 2,000, almost 2,200 people watching the stream right now. How do you feel about maybe taking some questions from the chat?
Well, if you want to read a couple out, but I think that you have to be careful with some. Yeah. As long as it's not a live situation, some of these maniacs on the internet check in and they're like, they say crazy stuff.
From there, I want to remind everybody who's watching.
Again, I just want to say real quick before you say it. People leave comments and things like that. The case should be what I was saying earlier. The case is based on witnesses, on victims, and that's where the focus should be. It shouldn't be on personal brands, egos, and things. And when I talked about the Miami Herald, I was going to say they probably should have been in a good running for the Pulitzer Prize, but Alan Dershowitz actually wrote a letter to the Pulitzer Prize Committee, trashing the Miami Herald's reporting.
Wow.
So it's like a lot of people don't know about that. So that's probably why Julie Brown, who's from Philly and who's been around, she worked at Philly Daily News. I know a lot of people down there. This is my home as well. And she's from Philly. It's probably why she didn't win. And it begs the question, why is Dershowitz tampering with the Pulitzer Prize Committee? Like, that's very unorthodox. And I'm not saying that Wade on the committee, but,
who knows?
Who
knows who Dershowitz
wouldn't have won anyhow because it attacked like a liberal overlord type guy. And even it took the New York Times 15 years to even come around on the Harvey Weinstein sex scandal. They had the story 15 years before they wrote it, and they waited 15 years, and then they broke it last year or 18 months ago, and then they win a Pulitzer Prize. I'm saying, where were you 15 years ago, and how many women were violated in that 15-year period? But, these guys tend to tread very lightly on their own and give them every benefit of the doubt. But on conservatives, they bring out the cartoon sledgehammer within 30 seconds.
So they're definitely getting the fences in place. Could be a sign of something, or could be a sign that the marshals are just trying to fill idle time. We've got 2,200 people watching us right now, Mike, and I want to remind those people to visit truepundit.com to get their news daily, and also to go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, patreon.com/truepundit, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. to watch More Pain, where Mike Moore, editor-in-chief and founder of True Pundit, joins me, and we discuss topics exactly like this. So we've got a lot of questions in the chat here. The indictment is unsealed on Document Cloud, and B. Pinkerton read it. It's about asset forfeiture, period. They're seizing all his property and assets. That's good information.
Well, that could... I don't know about that. It's a civil...
Well, that could be... What about Trump's executive order specifically about seizing the assets of people involved in human trafficking?
It's hard to say. Civil asset forfeiture is civil. It would that's a civil action. I don't think it would run it, and it's too early at this point to talk about in a criminal case what would be forfeited, etc. Because I don't know. I haven't seen anything. It just sounds a little off. But I mean,
Sandy Hook would be great too.
Well, it's interesting that it's on Document Cloud. Is Document Cloud some sort of official thing, or is that something that anybody can... they released the indictment. Prosecutor is Jeffrey Berman. What do you know about Jeffrey Berman, Mike?
Well, he's been around. Berman's been around, and like I said, you're not going to probably see Comey's daughter anywhere near this case.
People are saying that would make... Dershowitz is still trying to protect the Clintons. And there's a big connection to Harvard University as well. Of course, Alan Dershowitz... Well,
he's given millions of dollars to Harvard as well.
Right. And he's got the Harvard sweater that he's wearing all the time. You guys know where he's coming out? She said no, but why would she tell me? Yeah, all these people would know. There'd be a big run of people going over there if he was coming out over there. So, all right, there are details coming out. Epstein is the keystone, apparently.
So here's the deal. Exactly what I said earlier before the indictment dropped is pretty much what the indictment looks like. According to the indictment, between 2002 and 2005, Epstein ran a trafficking enterprise in which he paid hundreds of dollars in cash to girls as young as 14. We said that earlier, to have sex with him at his Upper East Side home. I reported that this would be based on the women that he had lured into his house in his complex in Manhattan. So that's in there. And his estate in Palm Beach. We also talked about that. That's in there. So it'll be interesting to see. It looks like they dropped it just a couple minutes ago.
People are saying that Dershowitz has secret emails. What secret emails would he have? Communications with Epstein would be protected by attorney-client privilege, even if it is a crime, right?
Who are the people that are saying this?
It's just someone in the comments. I don't know if that's an accurate statement, but Berman signed the indictment, Part 2. Okay, wait a minute. So it seems to be people moving over that way. Part 2 is EO about trafficking, so asset forfeiture is appropriate according to EO. What is EO? Executive order. There you go.
Yeah. Just be careful with the reporting because this is all happening on the fly, and you have to be careful, right? So
something happening down there.
So we don't want to get too ahead. I mean,
everybody's guessing right now. We're not sure where anything is going on. Seems like, you know, people are moving over towards that protest a little bit. I think everybody's just sort of like waiting and vamping.
Well, when they dropped the indictment, it takes a little zing out of what they thought was
okay, 11
a.m.
a.m. press conference has been confirmed by Bubba Jones. I hope my batteries can last that long. That's an hour from now.
Well, you can always cut off and come back.
Yeah, we may have to do that. But then I need to charge
we'll have more.
batteries.
We'll be able to talk about things, or you'll be able to at least cover whether I'm here on here or not from a better position once we know more about the indictment. It's dangerous to speculate until you read the documents, see them for yourself, know exactly what's going on. It's dangerous to report that Comey's daughter is somehow involved in the case, which I just don't. I even said it yesterday. That's insane if that was true. Obviously, it came from CNN. It was picked up by people on the right-wing media, and they ran, and the story went viral. And I'm just sitting back saying, this is crazy. I mean, you know.
We got tripods on the move. Is he coming in the back? Coming out the back?
No, we're going to the Attorney General's office. There's the press conference is happening over
Okay,
there.
so he's moving everybody down to the AG's
There's
office.
nothing happening here.
Nothing happening here. Okay, Attorney General's office.
They're moving down to the AG's office. What did I tell you about cheap suits in the rain?
Yeah, I don't know where the Attorney General's
They don't want to
office
stand
is.
they don't want to stand in the rain, right?
Do you have an address on the attorney? Here, let me look it up here.
It's down at St. Andrews Plaza, right?
I don't know. I've never.
It's going to the Southern District. It's down at St. Andrews Plaza, which is, I think.
Try and find it. Well.
Hey, thank you. How you doing, man? Big news.
See, there's losers who follow me around all the time.
Very, very important. This is very
So if it's a criminal division, you're down on
very, very important.
down on St. Andrews Plaza. If it's a
Sorry,
civil
that was an
division,
accident. You just assault me?
man.
Did you just
I'm so
kick me,
sorry.
Marcus Conti?
I'm so
Why don't you
sorry.
get out of here, man?
I'm so
You
sorry.
pointing that at me? Come here, come here. Come here, Marcus Conti. Let's talk to the cops. You got a serious problem, dude.
You just smacked my equipment out of my hand.
That was, I turned and you were standing there and it got knocked out of your hand. If you would get away from me, we wouldn't have any problems. What'd you call me? Say it again.
I
So you think people want to listen to you act like a 14-year-old? Say it again. Say it again.
Hey, Jason.
Have a dentist
Jason.
chair in his fucking bathroom.
These guys.
Jason.
Did George West fuck you in your ass?
Why does Epstein have a thing in his
Hey, Jason, did George West fuck you in your ass?
He did not, Marcus Conti. He's too busy doing that to you. Go away.
Jason, you were bottom or top?
Okay, very good. You've just destroyed the stream. Well done, Marcus Conti.
So I've got one here.
Hey,
Say right now, you're gonna want to grow up.
anything interesting?
Motherfucker.
Anything interesting happening inside there?
That's a loser. Don't talk.
I'm sorry, go again.
I don't think so.
Oh, you weren't inside?
Yeah, I was. But I bet the indictment.
Yeah, he's got one from Florida.
I don't understand why they indicted him.
What do you mean?
So, do you think
We
he...
wrote about this years ago. It's not new.
I'm doing a little bit...
But isn't it good that they finally indicted him now?
But I don't have any audio, right?
Well, he was indicted before, but no, they didn't do anything. Why are they going to do it now?
Hold on.
20 years later.
So you don't feel that this is going to go anywhere? Would they do this to somehow
Make
get...
everybody look better?
But, okay.
Acosta,
Tell me what I
person who appointed him?
And then
Probably.
I can do a little bit.
But why? Why are they doing it now?
What was... I'm so sorry. Remind me of the title of the book.
Filthy rich.
Filthy Rich. Right. So you're up there as far as among the people who know about Jeffrey Epstein,
Very well. All too well.
and there's nothing you see here that's going to result in him going to jail or revealing anything about high-level individuals who might have been involved.
What I don't understand is why the people who indicted him, he was attorney for Southern District. You know, this was the corruption unit. Why they indict him? They shouldn't have even investigated him. Something's wrong. Not that he doesn't deserve to go to jail. Let me make that very clear. But I don't understand why they do it now.
Very good. All right.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Debbie and
So it's interesting to see that there are some people who are more interested in making themselves a part of the story than actually getting some news. That would be a social engineering technique. I apologize to Mike if he hung up because of the interactions with that moron.
Material, Jason. Thank you.
Great, Marcus. Why don't you tell the audience how you speak to people?
Because he's a faggot. Fuck you.
Wait a second.
Yeah, let's ask him a question.
So Marcus
Because he's not a
Conti,
human
very
being.
well
What do you
I
want
don't
to
know
ask
nothing
him?
about it.
Ask me anything you want, Jason. Bring me into the conversation.
Who paid you to start messing with me, Marcus?
I
You
paid-
were
who
broke,
paid me?
and
No,
you were out of business when I saw you.
You invited yourself because you're a
Why
liar.
don't you go away? What have I lied about,
Well,
Marcus?
let's interview. Let's talk.
No, I don't want to talk to you. You're a loser. I want
No,
you to
you're
go
a
away from me. I want you to stop following.
I'm not following you. I'm in a public event. You fucking faggot.
So people should know what that guy is all about. Why don't you go arrest somebody for throwing something away? All right, very good. So we're going to try to find the district attorney's office. We're running low on battery here. And I apologize to the viewers who showed up to see something real and saw that nonsense instead. Okay, well, we've got to try to go to this press conference. Do you guys know where the district attorney's office is? See if we can get Ole on.
Currently unavailable.
All right, so Ole's not there. Yeah, well, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get over to the district attorney's office. Let me see if I can find that. I think we might have to end this stream pretty soon. Just looking up the district attorney's office, Worth Street. I guess we're pretty close. Let's see if we can make it over there. I don't know how interesting that's going to be to watch. And I don't think the batteries will survive. All right, so we're going to end the stream and we will come back over there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please visit crowdsourcethetruth.com.org and sponsor the show. You can go to patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and become a sponsor Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. More pain on Patreon and Subscribestar, and there's different exclusive content every day that people can enjoy. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon.